I stared at the DNA results on my laptop screen, my coffee mug slipping from trembling fingers and shattering across the kitchen floor. The numbers didn't lie. 99.9% probability. Not husband and wife. Brother and sister. My name is Sarah, and 3 months ago I thought I had the perfect marriage. Tom and I met in college, fell madly in love, and built what I believed was an unbreakable bond over 12 years together. We had our dream house, successful careers, and were finally ready to start a family. That's when everything unraveled. It started innocently enough. Tom had been acting strange for weeks, distant, secretive, constantly on his phone. I'd catch him quickly closing browser windows when I walked into the room. The paranoid wife in me assumed an affair. I wish it had been that simple. "Honey, I think we should both get genetic testing done," he said one evening over dinner, his fork pushing around the salmon I'd spent an hour preparing. "You know, before we try for kids. Make sure we don't pass on anything bad." I smiled, touched by his thoughtfulness. "That's actually really smart. My family has that history of heart disease, and your mom's diabetes could be genetic." "Exactly." But his eyes wouldn't meet mine. "I already ordered the kits. They should arrive tomorrow." The next few weeks felt routine. We spit in tubes, mailed them off, and waited. Tom seemed more relaxed after that conversation, which should have been my first red flag. When someone's hiding something explosive, they often act perfectly normal right before the bomb goes off. The results came back on a Tuesday. Tom's arrived first. I was at work when he called. "Sarah, we need to talk when you get home. It's important." "Is everything okay? Are you sick? Just come home. Please." His voice carried something I'd never heard before. Not sadness, not anger. Fear. I left work early, my stomach churning during the entire drive. Tom was pacing the living room when I walked in, his test results crumpled in his fist. "What's wrong?" I dropped my purse and rushed to him. He handed me the papers with shaking hands. "Look at the family matches section." I scanned down past the health information to the DNA relatives list. One name jumped out immediately, Sarah Mitchell, my maiden name, listed as close family, likely full sibling. "This has to be a mistake," I whispered. "The lab mixed up samples or something." That's what I thought too. So I called them. They ran it twice to be sure. The room started spinning. "Tom, this is impossible. We grew up in different states. Different families. Different last names." "I know. But Sarah." He sat heavily on the couch, burying his face in his hands. "I think there's something we don't know about our adoptions." My adoption. The word hit like a physical blow. I'd known since I was 5 that the Mitchells weren't my biological parents, but they'd always told me it was a private arrangement. A teenage mother who couldn't care for me. No other details available. "You're adopted too?" My voice came out strangled. He nodded slowly. "Found out when I was 16. My parents said the same thing, private adoption, no records, end of story." I sank onto the opposite end of the couch, suddenly afraid to be too close to him. The man I'd shared a bed with for over a decade. The man whose children I'd dreamed of having. My brother. "We need my results to be sure," I managed to say. But deep down, I already knew. My test results arrived 3 days later. Those were the longest 72 hours of my life. Tom and I barely spoke, moving around each other like strangers in our own home. We slept in separate bedrooms. I couldn't bear the thought of being next to him, but I also couldn't bear the thought of this being real. When I opened that second set of results, the last thread of hope snapped. Thomas Chen, listed as close family, likely full sibling. 99.9% probability. I printed both results and spread them across the kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. The coffee mug incident happened right after that. My hands simply refused to function normally anymore. Tom found me 20 minutes later, still staring at the papers, surrounded by ceramic shards and cold coffee. Sarah. He moved toward me carefully, like I might bolt. Don't. I held up a hand. Just don't. We need to figure this out. How this happened. Why no one told us. Figure it out? I laughed, but it came out broken and sharp. Tom, we've been committing incest for 12 years. We're brother and sister. What exactly is there to figure out? He flinched like I'd slapped him. It's not our fault. We didn't know. Didn't we? The words tumbled out before I could stop them. All those people who said we looked alike. Remember your coworker's wife at the Christmas party? She asked if we were related before she knew we were married. People say that to couples all the time. Do they? Or did we just tell ourselves that because the alternative was too horrible to consider? Tom started pacing again, running his hands through dark hair that I now realized looked exactly like mine. Same stubborn cowlick. Same tendency to curl when it got too long. How had I never seen it? We had the same birthday, I continued, the pieces clicking into place with sickening clarity. April 15th. What are the odds? Lots of people have the same birthday. We're both lactose intolerant. We both hate the smell of roses. We both get migraines from red wine. My voice was rising with each revelation. We both have that weird double-jointed thumb thing. I thought it was cute that we had so much in common. Tom stopped pacing. Sarah, please. We can get through this. Get through this? I stood up so fast the chair toppled backward. How exactly do we get through finding out our entire relationship is based on a lie? That we're brother and sister? We're not just brother and sister. We're husband and wife. We love each other. That doesn't change. I stared at him in horror. It changes everything. Everything, Tom. Every kiss, every time we made love, every plan we made for children, it's all wrong. It's all been wrong. That night I called in sick to work and sat in our guest bedroom, trying to make sense of the timeline. If we were twins given up for adoption, how had we ended up with different families? Different last names? Different stories about our origins? I started with what I knew for certain. Born April 15, 1987. Adopted by Robert and Linda Mitchell when I was 6 weeks old through a lawyer named Harold Brennan in Chicago. Tom's adoption happened around the same time, same city, but through a different family and supposedly a different lawyer. But what if it wasn't different? What if someone deliberately separated us? The next morning, while Tom was at work, I drove to my parents' house. Mom was in her garden, tending to the roses that had always made me sneeze. Sarah, honey, you look terrible. Are you sick? I sat on her porch steps, trying to find words for an impossible conversation. Mom, I need to ask you about my adoption. Her hand stilled on the pruning shears. What about it? I need to know everything. The real story. I've told you everything there is to know. A young woman couldn't take care of you, so she made an adoption plan. Mom, please. I know there's more. I pulled out the DNA results. I took a genetic test. There are things that don't add up. She sat back on her heels, dirt-stained gloves clutching the rose stems. What kind of things? Did I have any siblings? The question hung in the air between us. Mom's face went pale. Mom? Why would you ask that? Because my DNA results show I have a biological brother. Someone I share both parents with. And Mom, I think I know who it is. She stood up slowly, brushing dirt from her knees, and walked to the porch railing with her back to me. We never meant for this to happen, she whispered. My blood turned to ice. You knew? We knew you had a twin brother. The lawyer, Mr. Brennan, he said it would be better if you were placed separately. That twins often struggled with identity issues when raised together after early separation trauma. You knew I had a twin brother, and you never told me? She turned around, tears streaming down her face. Sarah, you have to understand. We wanted children so desperately. Your father and I had been trying for years. When Mr. Brennan called with an opportunity to adopt a baby girl, we said yes immediately. We didn't ask many questions. But you knew about Tom. We knew there was a boy being placed with another family. Brennan said it was better if the families didn't have contact. That clean breaks were healthier for everyone involved. I felt like I was drowning. What was the name of Tom's family? His adoptive family? Chen. David and Margaret Chen. And you never thought to mention this when I told you I was dating someone? When I brought Tom home? When we got engaged? Mom's face crumpled. We never knew his name was Tom. Brennan only told us about the boy and that he was going to a nice family. When you started dating Tom Chen in college, we had no reason to connect him to your biological brother. But you must have suspected something when you met him. He looks just like me. You think so? She seemed genuinely surprised. I always thought you looked like your father and me. People see what they want to see, honey. We saw our daughter with a nice young man who made her happy. I stood up, legs shaking. I need to talk to this lawyer. Harold Brennan. Sarah, he died 8 years ago. I read his obituary in the paper. Of course he did. Every thread that could lead back to the truth had been systematically cut. I need you to tell me everything you remember about the adoption. Every detail, no matter how small. For the next 2 hours, Mom recounted everything she could remember. The lawyer's office on Michigan Avenue. The birth mother was young, probably a teenager, but they never met her. The adoption was handled entirely through Brennan. The birth certificate listed unknown for the father. But there was one detail that made my stomach lurch. Brennan said the birth mother specifically requested that if anything ever happened to her, we should make sure you knew you had a brother out there somewhere. She made him promise to keep records in a sealed file, just in case. What happened to those records? I assume they were destroyed when he died. But Sarah, there might be something else. She disappeared into the house and returned with a small wooden box I'd never seen before. Brennan gave us this when we finalized the adoption. He said it contained some items from your birth mother. Things she wanted you to have someday if you ever asked about her. Inside the box was a small silver locket, a baby bracelet with baby girl engraved on it, and a sealed envelope with my name written in unfamiliar handwriting. You've had this for 28 years and never gave it to me? You never asked about her before. And honestly, we were afraid of losing you. Afraid you'd want to find her instead of being our daughter. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a single sheet of notebook paper, written in blue ballpoint pen. My dear Sarah and Thomas, it began. Thomas. My heart stopped. If you're reading this, it means something has gone wrong and you found each other without knowing who you are. I pray this never happens, but I need you to know the truth. You were born 3 minutes apart on April 15, 1987. Sarah first, then Thomas. You were both perfect and beautiful, and giving you up was the hardest thing I've ever done. I was 17. Your father was 18. We thought we were in love, but we were just kids playing house. When I got pregnant, both our families turned their backs on us. We had nowhere to go, no money, no support. Mr. Brennan convinced me that adoption was the best choice. He said he had 2 wonderful families picked out who desperately wanted children. But then he said something that haunts me still, that it would be better if you were separated. That twins raised apart would have better chances at normal lives. I didn't want to separate you. You were so connected, even as babies. When one of you cried, the other would start crying too. When you slept, you curled up together like you were still in the womb. But I was 17 and scared, and everyone told me this was best. So I signed the papers. If you're reading this together, it means my worst nightmare came true, that you found each other and fell in love without knowing. Please don't blame yourselves. Please don't blame each other. I chose families in different states on purpose, thinking it would prevent this. I never imagined you'd end up in the same college, the same life. I need you to know that you were wanted. So wanted. And if I had been older, braver, stronger, I never would have let them take you away from each other. Your father's name was Michael Rodriguez. Mine is Jennifer Walsh. I don't know if I'm still alive when you're reading this, but if I am, I hope you'll find me. I've thought about you every single day. I'm so sorry. All my love. Your mother. I read the letter 3 times before the words really sank in. Tom and I weren't just accidental victims of circumstance. We were deliberately separated by people who should have protected us. Did you know? I looked up at Mom. Did you know we were twins specifically? She shook her head. Brennan said you had a brother, but not a twin. He made it sound like maybe you were born months or even years apart. I drove home in a daze, the letter clutched in my passenger seat. Tom was waiting in the kitchen, Chinese takeout containers spread across the counter. I got your favorite, he said carefully. Kung Pao chicken. I set the letter down next to the containers. Read this. I watched his face as he read, saw the exact moment each revelation hit him. His hands were shaking by the end. We were twins, he said quietly. 3 minutes apart. And this lawyer, this Brennan guy, he deliberately separated us even though our birth mother didn't want him to. It gets worse. I sat across from him. I talked to my mom today. She said your adoptive parents might have records too. Different details that Brennan gave them. Tom was quiet for a long time, staring at the letter. What do we do now? I don't know. But I think we need to find Jennifer Walsh. Our birth mother. Sarah, what if she doesn't want to be found? What if this destroys her life too? What if it doesn't? What if she's been hoping we'd find her for 28 years? That evening, Tom called his parents. The conversation was harder for him. The Chens had always been less open about the adoption, treating it like a shameful family secret rather than just another way families are formed. But when he explained what we'd discovered, his mother broke down crying. I knew, she sobbed over speakerphone. Deep down, I always knew something wasn't right about how we got you. What do you mean? Tom asked. Brennan was so insistent that we never contact the other family. He made us sign papers promising we'd never try to find them or let you try to find them. It seemed extreme for a normal adoption. Do you have those papers? Somewhere. In the filing cabinet in your father's office. It took them 20 minutes to locate the adoption file. Tom's father read the relevant section aloud. The adoptive families agree to maintain complete separation and confidentiality regarding the placement of the male and female infants. Any attempt to contact the other adoptive family or encourage contact between the children will result in immediate legal action and possible reversal of adoption. He threatened to take us back if you ever found each other, Tom said, his voice hollow. But why? I asked. What was he so afraid of? Tom's mother had kept more items from the adoption than my parents had. In addition to legal papers, she had a letter from Brennan explaining the special circumstances of Tom's placement. The birth mother was a minor from a troubled background, Tom read from the letter. The birth father was also a minor and has denied paternity. Given the unusual circumstances surrounding conception, it is imperative that the twins be placed in families with no knowledge of each other's location or identifying information. Unusual circumstances surrounding conception, I repeated. What does that mean? Tom's father, who had been quiet during most of the conversation, suddenly spoke up. There's something else. Something we never told you because we didn't think it mattered. What? Your birth mother, Jennifer Walsh, she was in foster care when she got pregnant. Had been for 2 years after her parents died in a car accident. My stomach dropped. So? So was the boy who got her pregnant. Michael Rodriguez. They were in the same foster home. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. They were foster siblings. Brennan was worried about the legal implications. 2 minors in state care, living in the same home, getting pregnant. He thought it would create problems for the foster care system if it got out. So he covered it up, Tom said. Separated us and made sure no one could ever trace the connection back to him or the foster family. I felt sick. Our entire lives had been shaped by one man's desire to avoid a potential scandal. Jennifer and Michael, 2 traumatized kids who lost their parents and found comfort in each other, had been punished for acting like the teenagers they were. And Tom and I had paid the price. We're going to find her, I said. Jennifer Walsh. We're going to find our mother. The search took 3 weeks. Jennifer Walsh is a surprisingly common name, and we had to narrow it down by age, location, and what few details we had from the letter. Tom hired a private investigator who specialized in adoption reunions. She was living in Portland, Oregon. Jennifer Walsh Martinez, married with 2 kids, working as a social worker specializing in foster care placement. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Tom wanted to call first, but I insisted we needed to meet in person. This wasn't a conversation you could have over the phone. We flew to Portland on a Saturday morning in October. Jennifer had agreed to meet us at a small cafe downtown after Tom's investigator reached out to her. She said she'd been waiting 28 years for this moment. I spotted her immediately when we walked into the cafe. She looked like me, but older. Same dark hair, same green eyes, same stubborn jawline. She was sitting alone in a corner booth, wrapping and unwrapping her hands around a coffee mug. Jennifer? Tom approached first. She looked up and immediately started crying. Oh my God. Look at you both. You're so beautiful. We sat across from her, and for several minutes none of us could speak. She kept staring back and forth between us like she was memorizing our faces. I can't believe you found each other, she finally whispered. And I can't believe. She trailed off. That we got married, I finished. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. When the investigator told me, I thought it was my fault. That I somehow caused this by letting them separate you. It wasn't your fault, Tom said. You were 17 and scared and everyone lied to you. But if I had been stronger, if I had refused to let Brennan separate you. Then what? I leaned forward. You would have been a single teenage mother trying to raise twins? Jennifer, you did what you thought was best with the information you had. She wiped her eyes with a napkin. Tell me about your lives. Tell me everything. For the next 4 hours, we sat in that cafe and filled in 28 years of blanks. Jennifer told us about Michael, about the foster home, about the impossible choice she was forced to make. We told her about our adoptive families, our education, our careers, our marriage. Do you hate each other now? She asked quietly. Now that you know? Tom and I exchanged glances. It was a question we'd been avoiding for weeks. We don't know, I admitted. We don't know what we are to each other anymore. You're the same people you were a month ago, Jennifer said. The only thing that changed is information. But that information changes everything. Does it? You fell in love before you knew you were related. That love was real. It's still real. I shook my head. Jennifer, we can't just pretend this doesn't matter. We're brother and sister. You're also husband and wife. You're also 2 people who chose each other out of everyone in the world. Because we're biologically programmed to be attracted to similar genetics. Stop. Jennifer's voice was firm. Don't let them win. Them? The people who did this to you. Brennan, the foster care system, everyone who decided that separating you was more important than keeping you together. Don't let their choices destroy what you built. Tom reached across the table and took my hand. It was the first time he'd touched me since we got the DNA results. Maybe she's right, he said quietly. Maybe we're letting other people's mistakes define our relationship. I looked down at our joined hands. His fingers fit perfectly with mine, the same way they had for 12 years. Biology or not, this felt right. I don't know how to move forward, I admitted. Neither do I, Tom said. But maybe we figure it out together. Jennifer smiled through her tears. That's all I ever wanted for you. To be together. We flew back to Chicago the next day with Jennifer's phone number, email address, and a promise to stay in touch. She wanted to be part of our lives in whatever way we'd allow. She also gave us contact information for Michael Rodriguez, who lived in Denver and had been wondering about us for just as long as she had. But the question of what Tom and I were to each other remained unanswered. For 2 weeks after we got home, we lived like polite roommates. We slept in separate bedrooms, ate meals at different times, barely spoke except about practical matters like bills and schedules. I threw myself into researching our legal options. Could we get the marriage annulled? Were we committing a crime by staying married? What were the implications if we wanted to separate? The legal research led to an uncomfortable discovery: we weren't the first siblings to accidentally marry after being separated at birth. It was rare, but not unheard of. Most states had provisions for marriages entered into without knowledge of blood relation. But more interesting were the psychological studies I found. Research on genetic sexual attraction, the phenomenon where close blood relatives who meet as adults often feel intense physical and emotional attraction due to lack of early bonding. It was a recognized syndrome with documented cases. Tom and I weren't freaks. We weren't perverts. We were victims of a system that separated us and then failed to prevent the inevitable. Sarah, Tom said one evening as we sat in our living room, carefully maintaining distance on opposite ends of the couch. I've been thinking. About what? About what Jennifer said. About not letting them win. I closed my laptop where I'd been reading about annulment procedures. What do you mean? I mean, what if we're approaching this all wrong? What if instead of trying to figure out how to undo our relationship, we focus on how to redefine it? Tom, we can't just redefine being brother and sister. Why not? He turned to face me. Who says there's only one way to be siblings? Who says there's only one way to be married? I stared at him. Are you suggesting we stay married? Knowing what we know? I'm suggesting we make our own rules. We didn't choose to be separated as babies. We didn't choose to meet and fall in love without knowing we were related. But we can choose what happens next. And what would that look like? I don't know yet. Maybe we stay married but don't have biological children. Maybe we adopt, give some other kids the family we never got to have together as children. The idea was so simple it was revolutionary. Instead of letting our biology dictate our future, we could write our own story. People would think we're sick, I said quietly. People don't have to know. As far as the world is concerned, we're Tom and Sarah Chen, married couple who met in college. Nothing has to change externally. But what about internally? What about us? Tom moved closer on the couch. Sarah, I loved you before I knew we were related. I love you now. The DNA test didn't change how I feel about you, it just gave me new information about why I feel it. I felt tears starting. But is it real love or just genetic attraction? Does it matter? If it feels real, if it makes us both happy, if it doesn't hurt anyone, does the scientific explanation matter? I thought about the past 12 years. Tom was my best friend, my partner, my safe place. He was the person I called when I got promoted at work. He was the one who held me when my grandfather died. He was the one who made me laugh when everything else felt impossible. I'm scared, I admitted. Of what? Of people finding out. Of you changing your mind. Of this being wrong even if it feels right. Tom reached over and took my hand again. What if we agree that this is between us? What happened to us as babies wasn't our choice, but how we handle it now is. And I choose you. I choose us. That night, for the first time in a month, we slept in the same bed. Nothing sexual, we weren't ready for that yet. But we held each other, and it felt like coming home. The next morning, I called Jennifer. We've decided to stay together, I told her. I'm so glad, she said, and I could hear her crying again. I was so afraid I'd ruined your marriage by giving you up. You didn't ruin anything. If anything, you gave us the strength to choose each other all over again. Tom and I spent the next few months in counseling, working through the psychological implications of our situation with a therapist who specialized in adoption trauma and genetic sexual attraction. Dr. Martinez helped us understand that our feelings were normal, our choices were valid, and our relationship could be whatever we decided to make it. We also connected with Michael Rodriguez, our biological father. He was married with 3 kids and working as a mechanic in Denver. Like Jennifer, he'd wondered about us every day for 28 years. Meeting him filled in more pieces of our story and helped us understand where we came from. But the most healing part was realizing we weren't alone. Through online support groups, we found other couples who'd discovered they were related after marriage. Some had chosen to separate. Others, like us, had chosen to stay together and redefine their relationship on their own terms. 6 months after getting our DNA results, Tom and I renewed our wedding vows in a small ceremony with Jennifer, Michael, and our adoptive parents present. It wasn't about pretending the blood relationship didn't exist, it was about acknowledging that love is more complicated than biology. We did decide not to have biological children, but we've started the process of becoming foster parents. We want to provide the stable, loving home that Jennifer and Michael never got to have. We want to make sure no other children get separated unnecessarily by a system that values paperwork over human connection. The irony isn't lost on us that we're using our story to help other displaced kids find their way home. Looking back now, I realize that Harold Brennan's attempt to cover up a scandal created a much bigger tragedy. He separated 2 babies who belonged together, sent them into the world with incomplete histories, and set in motion a chain of events that led to exactly what he was trying to prevent. But maybe that's the real lesson here. Love finds a way. Tom and I were meant to be together, not as brother and sister, not as husband and wife in the traditional sense, but as 2 souls who recognize each other across time and circumstances and trauma. We define our own relationship now. We answer to no one but ourselves and each other. And we're happier than we've ever been, because we chose this. We chose us. The DNA test that could have destroyed our marriage actually saved it by forcing us to examine what we really meant to each other underneath all the labels and assumptions. We're still Tom and Sarah Chen. We're still married. We're still each other's best friend and greatest love. The rest is just information. And information, we learned, is only as powerful as you allow it to be. Have you experienced something like this? Tell me in the comments.